I cannot stop my obsessive thoughts. This is a message I get sometimes from clients and people that message me. It's usually comorbid. It's usually happening at the same time as other attachment related issues, but it's definitely a thing that sits there in the person and hopefully they're aware of it. So what does this look like? Obsessive thoughts they'll show up. Rumination actually is a word that people use for this. Limerence, rumination, love addiction. These are the obsessive thoughts that have to do with relationships and usually a partner or ex-partner. But obsessive thoughts is kind of an umbrella term that also will cover situations like, you'll hear cases where the person was doing a presentation and then it's after the presentation and they're just going over all their mistakes. It's like, oh, I made this mistake and I made that mistake. And like, why couldn't I? It's like, I practiced this and it didn't show up. And it's just like, oh, I'm so stupid. I was literally in a relationship one time with someone that was very accomplished in their field and very smart, very brilliant. And this person went and did a presentation and came back and I, would go for a date afterwards or something. And it was just lost. She lost in this ruminating cycle about every mistake that was made and literally like smashing hand against head in punishment and saying the terms, I'm so stupid, I'm so stupid. And I had to go out and physically like grab one hand and then she just started doing the other one. So then I had to grab two and like literally kind of like restrain this person from attacking themselves in judgment of the mistakes that they made. That's a red flag. If that's not clear, that's a super red flag, right? And it portrays a great many other things that are going on inside that nervous system and the beliefs that they have about self and everything. And the chance of that turning into a healthy relationship is very low. Obsessive thoughts. Well, at the base definition of it is that like the thoughts that I have about this thing, which is usually the past, but it could also be anticipation of the future, are overriding. They're jumping in to my thought space. So it's like I'm walking down the street and it's just like, my brain is just spinning about my girlfriend or my ex-girlfriend or my ex-wife or whatever. It's like, where are they now? And what are they thinking of me? And blah, 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 whatever. It could be anything. But the kind of the defining trait of this is that like it intrudes upon my normal operating day-to-day life. I can't get a break from it. I've heard the term intrusive thoughts used for this also. Intrusive thoughts, obsessive thoughts, they both work good. It is a really difficult place to be. It is a very uncomfortable experience. And sometimes it's legitimately dangerous. One point, I had just gone through one of my major breakups. And I was like, I have to reinvent myself. And the normal thing you do, and it's like you start going to the gym and working out more and da-da-da-da. But this particular time, I was like, I'm going to learn how to scuba dive. I'm going to take a scuba diving class because this one's starting. The teacher seems really good. And I go into the scuba diving class, and of course, all the initial part is all theory. And I go to the class every day, and it's like I'm struggling to answer questions, and I'm struggling to fill out the sheet because the thoughts of this breakup were just spinning and spinning and spinning in my head. And then eventually we go to pool time and I'm having to make like legitimate practice of life and death situations to make sure that I have enough safety to pass the certification. And I can't think straight. And, one point my regulator was broken and I got a whole lung full of water. And yeah, and it was just like my brain is so occupied with this other thing in my life that it just like it burst into this massive panic, which is not safe. And it's not safe to be driving. There was another time I like just got in the car and started driving because I'm so dysregulated. And I'm just like, I just need to do something. And so getting in the car and driving, and the brain is spinning, and I'm trying to put on music to distract me and all that kind of stuff, right? So I'm spending all this time describing the what this looks like and what this feels like, and I'm doing that to try to help create resonance with any of you out there that have struggled with the same thing. That it's like, I know what you're going through. I've been there, and it is profoundly uncomfortable. So what do we do about it? What is the cause? First, let's look at the cause. The cause of obsessive intrusive thoughts, oddly enough, is safety. What? I know, that one got me too. What's going on there is that there's this subconscious portion of the mind that is predominantly, in fact, the main focus and goal of the subconscious portion of the mind is safety and survival of this organism, right? You achieve survival of this organism through felt safety. And there are times in our childhood, this comes from the attachment theory stuff, when threats to, or basically our social connections don't develop in an ideal way. And we end up being in the state of vigilant monitoring of social situations and trying to maintain safety through that. And when that happens in certain ways, it will kind of change. Certain portions of the brain will grow bigger and other ones will grow smaller. And you become hyper vigilant around social risk, around risk of separation or abandonment or detachment or anything like that. Whereas the part of the brain that monitors physical risk is actually shrinking. And some people like my stories around this because I definitely got that. And like being in situations where it's just like, oh, there's this whole tribe of baboons that might murder me here in a couple of minutes. And I'm just like, la, 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 and bombs going off and a terrorist attack and being, robbed at gunpoint and all that kind of stuff. And these are situations where I was at extreme physical risk and my nervous system was just like, la, 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 totally just calm and regulated. But yet I'll be in a situation where it's like someone I care about is talking about leaving me and I will just lose it as if I'm, in the middle of a shark attack, right? I'll just like completely lose my mind at social threat, but not physical threat. I cannot stop my obsessive thoughts. Does this plague you? I know it plagued me for a long time. Years. Okay, what are obsessive thoughts? Well, let's go down a list of other things, other words, terminology that people use. They'll use limerence, rumination, intrusive thoughts, obsessive thinking, preoccupation, hypervigilance. There's a few more. So these are all kind of talking about the same thing. And what is this thing? This thing is like being trapped in a state where like my day-to-day behaviors are constantly bombarded by these thoughts that are spinning in my mind. And these thoughts are always about concern, right? It's not like joyful, yay, I'm so happy and like this is the best day ever. No, we don't get those. Wouldn't it be awesome if we did? No, these are the ones that is just like, what are they thinking about me? What is this person doing? Why haven't they messaged me back? Like, oh my God, like I'm going to fail this test. I'm going to, I'm not going to make, what am I going to do with my life? Where am I going to make money? Worry, concern, fear, panic sometimes. What motivates these? What gets us to a state where this happens to us? Oddly enough, kind of the main motivating force behind this is a pursuit of safety. So the subconscious is kind of it's a thing we talk about. We don't really have a specific brain structure for it. but it's kind of a separate operating aspect of our mind. And as far as I can tell, that part of our mind is really only focused on one thing, and that is the continued survival of this organism, this body, this mind body thing. How can I live to another day? How can I survive whatever is in front of me so that we can keep being alive longer? And the way that it does that is it seeks out safety. It will generate emotions, positive and negative, in order to push us towards things that it believes are safe and away from things that it believes are unsafe. So that's kind of like the main engine that's under the hood that's like driving so much of this. And so what it does is that it, in whatever messaging way that it does, I'm not sure the specific mechanism, but it activates this mechanism to basically grab a thought about something that it believes will bring a high chance of safety and survival in the future, and will just basically push that into your conscious mind. And the fact that it's not pushing in happy stuff tells us that it is predominantly focused on threats that it thinks it can avert, like that we can avoid. So if we have a situation where, like, maybe there's an earthquake, right? And I can't control the earthquake. Maybe there's some situation that I literally have no power over, and if it does happen, I will not be able to act. It doesn't really think about those. What it predominantly thinks about is it pushes thoughts into our mind that have something to do with situations that we have some kind of agency over, or at least it believes we have agency over, right? Like, I'm worried about my finances, and so there'll be this constant, obsessive, intrusive worrying about, like, what are you doing to secure your next paycheck? How are you going to get that business deal? How can we get, more customers? How can we do better on social media? How can we, make this customer sign up for another package? Blah, 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 right? If it's about relationship, it'll be like, what are they thinking about me? What are their opinions? Are they happy with me? Are they not happy with me? Why have they not messaged in the last couple of days? And, that kind of thing. Oddly enough, some of those we don't actually have agency over, but so there's kind of a trick there in that we don't actually have agency over whether or not our partner messages us back, but what we do have agency over is understanding it. So that's where the intrusive thing comes in. It comes in to just say, like, you need to solve this equation, because this uncertainty about, like, they're not messaging us back is anxiety. It's an unknown. It is uncertainty. Uncertainty is threat. We don't know what to do. It's like, do they still like us? Do they not like us? Whatever. And it will create all these uncomfortable emotions around the uncertainty related to their returning a text. And so what it's saying is, I don't want this uncertainty anymore. Find an answer so that we can have certainty. So it's like, are they talking to somebody else? Do they, are they cheating on me? Are they sick? Are they in the hospital? Are they busy? Are they whatever, right? It's just like, find the effing answer. And we do have agency over that. And if we can get to the point of certainty, that feels safer. Uncertainty feels unsafe. Certainty feels safe. And that's what obsessive thoughts are about. Obsessive thoughts are a way that the subconscious is basically flooding our conscious mind with an incessant need, craving to get certainty and mastery over uncertainty. I don't know what's going to happen with our finances tomorrow. That feels anxious. I have anxiety about that. I have worries about that. I have fears. I don't want these fears. They feel nasty. I don't want to feel this thing. Make it feel different. How do we make it feel different? We make it feel different by getting some kind of framework or explanation or label or whatever that will contain it into a box and say, now I've got an answer. And then we'll take that box and put it on the shelf, and then we'll just pick up the next one and start running after that one. Is the box accurate? Usually not. And see, that's one of the giveaways that this is the dynamic that's happening. It doesn't give a shit if your attempt at certainty is actually accurate or helpful or healthy. It doesn't care. What it cares about is that you've got the box that you can put it in and you can say, we've got this defined now. So you'll see this in subtle and not so subtle ways, that like the person texts their boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, and that person doesn't respond back for a couple hours. And there's like, why did you not respond to me? I see the little checks, there's a blue check next to it. You saw it. You read it. I can see that it was delivered to your phone, and I can see that you actually opened it and you read it and you didn't respond to me. Why? Why did you not respond to me last night or this morning or whatever, right? We don't start from the position of like, what happened? What's going on for you? Like, this is not your normal behavior. We say, give me an answer so that I can clarify and I can put this anxious experience inside a box and I can know what happened. See, that's the dead giveaway. That's the dynamic that's going on. We're trying to make demands of other people to give us answers for situations of uncertainty so we can classify it, wrap it up in a little box, put a bow on it, and say, I know what happened there. And then if they give us an answer that's a little bit elusive, like, I was just out, and like, where, right? And then, so now there's more uncertainty. It's like, that actually amplifies it, because here's the source, the thing that's going to give me an answer to make my anxiety go away. And then they give me an answer that's even more elusive and aloof and, ambiguous. Then it's just like, you could give me an answer that makes all this anxiety go away, but you're choosing not to. Like, what's going on there? And for people that are really deeply in the insecure space, you'll see them begin to demonize that person. And it's like, and you'll overhear the conversations at the cafe, and they're talking to their friend. They're just like, yeah, he didn't text me back. And then I asked him why, and he said he was out with his friends, but it's like, it's a Thursday night, and I know his friend, and his friend like works on Thursday nights. So he must be lying to me. And it's like, I think he's cheating on me, blah, 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 blah. Right. And you can watch their brain go through this whole process of jumping to one conclusion after another to get to a point where they have an answer for this uncertainty. And even if that answer means a massive amount of resentment and dysregulation and anger and toxicity being introduced into the relationship, because truly they don't know, they're making guesses, right? So I'm going to make these assumptions that he's cheating on me and all this bad stuff is happening because I want to have certainty over this situation. And believing my partner is a cheater and that he's been maintaining some kind of long-term deception feels more peaceful to my nervous system than just waiting an extra 20 minutes to say, hey, what's going on? This is a really powerful dynamic, and it's much more common than we realize. The obsessive thoughts are a mechanism being used by deeper portions of our mind to force the thinking part, the prefrontal cortex, which is kind of the domain of the conscious. It's a way of motivating the conscious mind to use its resources to reach a conclusion that feels certain and safe and predictable, and it doesn't actually care if it's healthy or not. That's what obsessive thoughts are about. They're a seeking of certainty, safety, survival. So what do we do about this? How can I reach a point in my life where I'm not being plagued by obsessive thoughts all the time? Getting to the root of the fear is a big, big step. Understanding that it's just like being in this place where I don't know what's going to happen is terrifying. That's just reaching that point and letting that sink in is incredibly powerful. Just say, that's what this is all about. My brain is being consumed by obsessive thoughts because I'm terrified of something. What am I terrified of? I'm terrified of not knowing. I'm terrified of not having an answer. I'm terrified of them choosing someone else. I'm terrified of being back in this position of being lonely and unwanted. And it's like, is that actually it? Is this relationship actually over? And then I'm just going to sink into my loneliness and desperation and whatever? Or is there still a hope? Is there still a chance that I can win her back? Right? That uncertainty, not knowing one way or the other, is a great way of creating intrusive thoughts. It's almost like playing a slot machine. And you'll see evidence of this too. You'll see the people that will be in some kind of situationship, and they'll be like, and you can see that anxiety of the unknown coursing through their system, and they'll just be like, I can't handle this anymore. Like, I just need to know one way or the other. And then they'll go to the partner and be like, you need to give me an answer right now. It's like, are we together? Are we going to get married in 3 years? Are we going to have babies? Are you going to give me the certainty that I want for my future? You need to do that right now, because I've got needs and I've got demands, and I'm justified in seeking an answer to this uncertainty. You'll see that happen for sure. And it is few and far between that you're going to find a partner that will have the patience to go through that process with you, because you are making an unreasonable demand. People think that it's just like, oh, this is my need. I have a need for certainty, and so I get to demand it of you. And if you're not going to give it to me, then I'm going to end this relationship and I'm going to go find someone who can. Sure, you can take that path if you want. No one's stopping you. But understand that the thing that's driving all of this is your anxiety around uncertainty. And as far as I can tell, in my life experience and experiments with this across many relationships, it doesn't get better. There's no amount of assurance or promises or words or rings or anything else that will ever bring enough predictability and certainty to a situation that your nervous system will feel okay. As far as I can tell, there's no amount of effort another person can do that will actually bring me that calm. I need to find that calm myself. That means I need to become more comfortable with the idea of this uncertainty. Okay, so let's dig into that. What is the thing that makes uncertainty so unsafe? Well, uncertainty, the unknown, will always be associated with threat in the eyes of the subconscious, because the unknown, by definition, has an unknown cost to it. I don't know how much risk will be there. If I step through that door, how much risk is going to be on the other side? How much drama am I going to have to deal with? How much dysregulation is my nervous system going to go through? How many calories is my brain going to burn if I walk through that door into the unknown? I don't know. So the brain will say, it could be a lot. It could be so high that it is beyond my storage reserves that I have inside my body, and so we'll starve to death. So instead of doing that, I'm going to go over this one that feels miserable and unwanted and table scraps and blah, 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 right? I'm going to go choose this other one because I know what the cost is, even though I'm not happy there. That's how the brain works. So that's one reason uncertainty is threatening. But the other reason is that lots of times the uncertainty that we're having aversion to has to do with a different fear that we also feel. It has to do with being in a situation where there's two different outcomes. Maybe we get back together and maybe they leave me forever. And so one of these leads to me feeling broken, abandoned, abused, neglected, whatever. And the other one is like, oh, that's super awesome and euphoric, and that's the one that I want, right? And so it's like, I'm gonna stay in this place because if it goes well, it's the happiest thing ever. Hint, that's probably a trauma response. But if it goes bad, it's going to be terrible. And right now, if I stay in this place of indecision, I don't have to face the bad. And there's a chance of something good. So in some ways, oddly enough, in some weird twisted fate of the universe, sometimes our mind will choose to stay in this uncertain place because it's actually avoiding the negative possibility. Staying in the unknown at least allows me to avoid the bad. So I'm keeping myself in a place of kind of unknown, uncertain, unpredictable, possibly threatening, keeping myself locked in this situation because I'm too afraid to face the consequences of the bad path. Does that make sense? I don't want to feel rejected. I don't want to feel abandoned. I don't want to go back to the lonely place. I don't want any of those things. And so I'd rather stay here and just desperately holding on for any bit of attention that she'll give me, rather than sink fully into the idea that this is done and over, and rather than sink in to the true reality that that relationship is over, her attention is going in a different direction, and I am alone now. You see how it works? So lots of times we will keep ourselves in a state of uncertainty in order to avoid the thing that feels really, really bad. And then keeping us in uncertainty, all the other kind of physiological reactions to uncertainty and the unknown come online and say, this isn't safe either. That's really unsafe. That feels really horrible. This just feels mostly horrible. But there's this dreamy possibility of a future. This is literally kind of the driving force behind gambling addiction also. We need to face both fears. We need to face the fear of uncertainty, and then we also need to face the fear of whatever that thing is that we're avoiding by keeping ourselves in the uncertain space. And so we need to get very, very clear on what those things are that we're avoiding, what those things are that bring terror and fear and dysregulation to our system. We need to understand that. And that's the homework. That's the work that you need to do. And you can reach out to me or someone like me to help guide us through that process, because lots of times we're blind to ourselves. We need to get really, really clear on what it is that we're actually afraid of. Am I afraid of being alone? Am I afraid of being abandoned? Am I afraid of being in a position where I have no money? Am I afraid of being in a position where my parents have every reason to be disappointed in me? Like, those are the things we're likely avoiding. And we're avoiding those things to stay here in this place of uncertainty. And then the subconscious is being like, find an answer for this. So we're literally in a war with ourselves. It's like, I don't want to feel the nasty, yucky, lonely emotions, but I also don't want to be here in uncertainty. So now we've got a problem. We have this like math equation that needs to be solved. And on both sides, I'm trying to run away from something that feels uncomfortable. And then the subconscious is in there being like, all of this chaos that's happening is unacceptable. You need to find an answer for this. So we'll just keep pushing obsessive thoughts. Intrusive, rumination, limerence, all that stuff. It'll keep smashing those things into our conscious mind and trying to interrupt and intrude upon anything that we're doing, because it is looking for an answer. And it's looking for an answer because it says, once we have an answer for this, we can calm down. And then you're like, well, yeah, but we're going to calm down into a point where we're abandoned and alone and unwanted on this earth, and that feels horrible. So I don't really want to calm down into that situation, right? There's different parts of the mind that are all kind of like warring with each other during this time. But that's the key bit, is getting, first step is recognizing that it's happened. Second step is getting very clear on what it is that I have uncertainty about and what it is I am avoiding on the negative side. And then the fourth step is to say, how can I retrain my nervous system to believe that these things are not actually that bad? That being without money for a couple of weeks is not actually that bad. that I can survive that situation, that being alone is not that bad. I can survive that situation. That being in a situation where that particular person is rejecting me and doesn't want to be in relationship with me anymore is not actually that bad. I can survive this situation. I have to retrain my nervous system to reconcile, rectify, release these fears that are pushing me around. Because see, if it's worth saying here that oftentimes what will happen is people will be in this intrusive thought stuff, and the feedback they'll get from the healing community is like, oh, you need to meditate, you need to get your thoughts in order, you need to calm your mind. And so people will go through this whole meditative journey trying to just get to a point where they can calm their thoughts. I mean, God, I did this for months and years, trying to sink deeper into this idea that I'm just going to meditate, I'm going to be calm, I'm going to observe my thoughts, and all that kind of stuff. Now, if that meditation gets us to the point where we understand and can fully see that this whole dynamic that's happening is because I'm afraid of something, then fantastic. 100% agree, we are in alignment. But a lot of people don't use it that way. They are using meditation as like a gaslighting, soothing trick to just like, I'm going to bring myself into a state of calm and bliss, and I'm just not going to think about those difficult thoughts. And if that happens and the fears remain online in your subconscious, they're just going to loop around and take control again. And sure, this discipline you're building during meditation will be great across many domains of life, but it's like you're not actually dealing with the fear. And that's what I'm getting at here, is that if whatever modality you engage in and with this, if it doesn't bring you face to face with the thing that you're terrified of, we need to question its efficacy. We need to question whether or not that process is actually bringing you to a place of freedom and release from this uncomfortable process. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, call me. We'll help. I'm going to wish you all the best. I believe in you. I believe in every single one of you can get through this. I know sometimes it is incredibly powerful and it feels impossibly overwhelming, but I guarantee you it's not. I have not yet come across a situation that is unsolvable or unapproachable. It's just sometimes we have to take smaller and smaller baby steps of progress to get the momentum going so you can reach escape velocity and this whole situation can be behind you. I'm very confident in that, and I've seen it play out many, many times. So I hope you can find that path in your own life. I hope this has been helpful. Reach out, leave a comment, send a DM, whatever it is. I do one-on-ones, group work, public speaking, all that kind of stuff. And I love all that stuff. So like, you're not inconveniencing me by sending me a message. And with that, I'll bid this adieu. And I wish you all the peace in the world.